Welcome to the Stochastic MLB DFS Strategy Show. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. I am here with my old pal and your old pal, EMac. You can find him on Twitter at EMac DFS, and this show is sponsored by Underdog. We'll talk about Underdog a little bit more later on. While you're coming in, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. Of course, if you have not yet signed up to try to get into the Stochastic Hall of Fame, you can do so by going to stochastic.com/avatar, placing the top 3 of a contest with 5,000 or more entrants, and tweet your win to @StochasticHOF if you have Twitter, or just email us with your win with the screenshot with that Stochastic avatar, and you'll win a free month of Stochastic Plus Platinum, and you'll get a nice shout out from Lofty. So do that if you have not yet done so. EMac, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good. We've been up since the crack of dawn, got my article posted, started researching the slate for these games. In the early games, we already had Kevin Gausman scratched after I spent 25 minutes writing him up. It's a Saturday. It's like NBA, but not quite.
Always fun when you write something and then it all becomes inapplicable. I've had that happen many times. When I did NBA articles, it was suddenly like, oh, I hate doing this because you can't do it in the morning because news is going to come out, and then you do it at 2:00 and then news comes out in the middle of your article that just negates everything. It's kind of frustrating when you're trying to write as news has not come out yet, but that is the life we live. It's not such a bad one, I guess, in the end.
The only news that's not frustrating is the one and only news god.
The one and only news god. I see him in chat. Good to see you, news god. Good to see you guys all here this morning. It is bright and early in the morning. EMac, 2 days in a row for you doing a morning show.
I know, and I've got one tomorrow as well. So, although that's not till like 12:30, so I'll be ready for a nap at that point before the show even starts.
Nice.
But here we are talking baseball.
Here we are.
Love it. I think I did the math. Year 33 of fantasy baseball for me.
Year 33 of playing fantasy baseball. My God.
Yep. Started in 1989 before chat was born.
Like, how long has fantasy baseball even been around? Like, when was it invented? You probably know this.
It was invented in the early 80s. It was at the Rotisserie Le Rotisserie restaurant in New York. It was a group of writers, not just baseball writers, but like actual writers, authors, and editors that put it together, and they were the ones that more or less invented it.
Red Skittle says, I started life in 1994. Jake Swell says he was born in 89. I was born in 83, so I guess I was 6 when you started playing fantasy baseball. That's a long run for you.
The internet did not exist when we were playing. We didn't even have home computers at that. Well, I guess we had home computers, but there was nothing to connect them to. So.
Yeah, that's nuts. Well, you're 33. And still going strong as ever, and we will talk about a lot today. We're going to go briefly over the 4-game early slate. Figure we'll get some questions on that since it is the next big slate, and it's a relatively large layer. So we'll go over that one really quickly first, and then we'll jump into the main. I think for this early slate, EMac, you said you have notes. Do you want to go game by game, or should we just do do you want to do just an overview of the early?
Let me just kind of do my overview here. Okay. So we did have Gausman scratch, so he's going to be replaced by Chris Bassett. That actually takes a decent Arizona squad and puts them in the mix as a stacking team. Now their salaries are not cheap. Corbin Carroll, $6,000 even going against Gausman. It was slated to be. He's at $6,000 excuse me, on DraftKings, which is pretty high, but Arizona much improved on offense. They still have some holes in the back of their lineup. Carson Kelly is clearly not a great catcher, or he's a good catcher, but not good on offense. You've got Emmanuel Rivera and Jake McCarthy. They're young and inconsistent. And you've got Lourdes Gurriel, in a remember me spot. But aside from that, their top 5 through Gurriel are pretty solid. That was my notes there. Zach Gallen. I saw somebody. So I looked at a lot of the content that was out there this morning. Normally I'm writing my own, but I got mine done early, so I went to see what else was out there, just the free stuff. I did see some interesting takes. One was that targeting the Blue Jays against Gallen is a good idea because he's bad on the road. He's also the odds-on favorite to win the Cy Young this year. So you gotta be careful when you look at some of this data. He's a very good pitcher. I would say the home road splits are probably noise. at this point because it's relatively limited. But, anything plays in baseball. He's going to have 5 or 6 games where he gives up more than 5 runs. That could happen today. And if it's via the home run, then yeah, that's going to be a great stack. But I wouldn't want to push my chips in on that one. If we look at the very first game, it's game 1 of a doubleheader. It's San Diego at Philly. So we have Ranger Suarez starting. I like him. I play him a lot on season long leagues, and I stream him. I'm not in this start against the Padres. Padres are down this year despite spending a gazillion dollars, but I don't want to really look to Suarez. He does a good job of limiting power and runs. He's kind of coaxes out some ground balls. He's a slightly better Martin Perez, but nowhere near Framber Valdez. So as we look at the ground ball lefties here, so I think you're still okay with Tatis, Machado, Bogarts, but I don't think you really need to stack that team. Blake Snell on the other side, I think he's our number 1 pitcher now. We don't have Bryce Harper in the lineup, which makes sense because the game 2, which we'll talk about for the main slate for this one, has I'm blanking on its name. The crappy lefty for San Diego. So why put Harper against Snell? You also have Drew Ellis, Edmund Sosa, and Johan Rojas as 3 of the bottom 4 hitters. Yeah, not exciting at all. I think we definitely look to Blake Snell to anchor the teams. What else do we have? Paxton is making his 148th career start today, despite starting his career in 2013. That just goes to show how many games he's lost due to injury, Neil, and he's had multiple. But yeah. Big Maple looking good this year. He is going against Chicago, not so windy in the Windy City, but it is going to be relatively warm and humid. He is okay going against the Cubs. He's probably your SP2 on this. Marcus Stroman on the other side does a pretty good job of getting ground balls. So it's hard to stack against him. He does have home run issues from time to time, but usually nobody's on base. So it's hard to stack against him because the correlation just doesn't come through. Looking at him as an SP2, I'd say maybe at 7,500 on DK, but I wouldn't play him on FanDuel. And then let's see, the last game we haven't talked about, Cleveland at Texas. You've got Andrew Heaney on the mound here. Cleveland over the last 2 seasons has a 95 WRC plus against lefties, which means they're 5% worse than league average, but they only strike out 17.6% of the time, which is the lowest in the league over that 2-year period. And their ISO is also the lowest at 129. So it's hard to go with Heaney because his strikeouts are the key for his upside. And will he be able to generate them against a team like this? I don't think so. Hey, it's baseball. He could get 6 or 7, but we would like to see more than that. And then Texas going against Gavin Williams. I think that's where everybody's going to land, but there's nothing wrong with that. The Texas lineup is fabulous this season. They also can be stacked in a variety of ways. Neil, they've got their all-stars were Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia, Josh Jung, and Jonah Heim. Wow, 5 all-stars that are in their starting lineup. The only guy who wasn't was Nathaniel Lowe, but he got a Silver Slugger last year. So, hey, I don't want to have anything to do with Gavin Williams. I think this is his 4th or 5th start. He looks like a talented pitcher, but come on, he's going against a truly all-star lineup here. So the quick summary: Splash Galen in, Blake Snell's going to be, and James Paxton are going to be the 2 we go for, and probably target the Texas offense. That's how I'm going to break that down. So
all right. Well, I'm going to do the post slate recap that I do at the end of every show. So I'm going to start by asking you 3 favorite stacks from this.
Okay, sure. Texas will be number 1. I will take Arizona number 2, going against Bassett. Bassett has struggled a little bit this year. He's been around in the league for a long time. Long time with Oakland, then he's with the Mets. He's a solid pitcher, but just not looking good this year. And I have him on my dynasty team with Mr. T. McBee. So I do follow along with what Mr. Bassett is doing. So I really only have those 2. I guess I would say one-offs from San Diego or 2-mans going against Ranger Suarez. And hope you get lucky with a RBI double or 2.
Okay.
Pitching would be Snell.
3 favorite pitchers. Yeah.
Snell, Paxton, and then Gallen.
And then we got to make our home run picks, and we got to take as many chances as we can at getting home runs here. So let's see who you like here.
We are going to take. You know what, Lourdes Gurriel is going to have a remember me home run. He's familiar with the batter's eye there in Toronto.
Fernando Tatis feels too obvious here. He is our top projected play on the slate. He's righty going up against a lefty. I'll go down the board. I'll go Manny Machado instead. Manny Machado is going to be my home run pick, just to go a little bit off the board. All right. I think that's good enough for the early slate.
What time is it now? 11:16. That is the answer for David Galindo in the chat. What time is the main slate stream for today?
Yeah, we're doing it right now. We're just about to start. Yeah, this is the only stream we're doing today. We just want to get through that real quick because we thought some people might. Pat Fitz wants early slate tiers. All right, let me take a look at. Do you play any tiers, EMac?
I do. I haven't set them up today, but I can look real quick here.
Yeah, let's take a look real quick.
The key thing, as I'm calling these up, the key thing that you want to do with tiers is you want to look for stacking. That's the standard for MLB and for NHL. So San Diego is going to be the popular one because they've got representatives in tiers 1, 2, 3, and 6. And that's, you can get 2 through 5 in their lineups there. So that, or 1 through 5 in their lineup. So that's going to be where everybody goes. I don't dislike that. But that's going to be the common one. If you want to be different, then look to, let's see who we got. We've got the Phillies against Snell. Now, I think you probably could get by with 2 or 3. You don't need to go with the 4 available slots. But if you went Real Muto, Castellanos, and Bohm, you have good home run upside against Snell. So I think that's reasonable. I mentioned that I'm not really thrilled with Stroman, but you can do a 3-man with Devers, Yoshida, and Turner. So let's say that's going to be my number 1. Number 2 is going to be whatever you can with San Diego. And then let's see who else. Arizona looks pretty solid as well. So Carroll, Ketel Marte, Christian Walker, and Lourdes Gurriel. All right, I lied. Arizona's my number 1. I think everybody in the field is going to go with San Diego. I think Philadelphia is your contrarian look.
All right, so you're
I would skip. Cleveland doesn't have enough players. They only have 2 players. So.
All right, so your advice is just to stack for the early slate. I mean, in general tiers, your advice sounds like it's to stack.
Yeah, and so there are ways you can set that up to do that in your optimizers if you want to. I hit all the milestones I wanted to for DK baseball, so I'm playing 1 tiers lineup per day, but I finished on a strong note heading into the break, so I'm very happy with that. But I'm not playing them every day like I was before, or I'm playing 1 lineup every day instead of 100. But okay.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to the main slate. Fat Huds Barbecue says we are the Golden Girls version of Stochastic. Yeah, I think we are the 2 oldest doing content now for Stochastic. So we are the Golden Girls version of Stochastic. Hadn't thought about that, but yes,
you slid into the number 2 slot here.
I did. I slid into number 2. Caleb Williams says, "What about Devers for our home run pick?" I was actually thinking about Devers. It kind of came down to Devers. He's probably a better pick than Machado, like from a number standpoint. Yeah, Devers definitely somebody I would consider there. He also Caleb said that he won last night without stacking.
Nice.
I mean, he must have hit on the best one-offs there. Nice job there.
And truly, so this early slate actually had more teams than you can normally stack. A lot of times, and I bet when we look at the main slate, they're only going to have a couple teams you'll be able to stack. The rest you won't. And a lot of times they'll only put 1 or 2 players in the entire pool from the Coors Field game or whatever it is. But I've noticed on the shorter slates, like so for the nighttime ones and occasionally for the afternoon ones, you can stack more because they run out of player options. So if it's like it ends up being like Coors Field or a really good offensive spot, they'll just put all of the players from that game in 1 or 2 of the tiers. So you really can't spread them out. So you have to kind of look at what it gives you each day. It's not, I'd love to stack, but guess what? If on some main slates, like there's maybe only 3 or 4 teams that have more than 2 batters.
Right.
Like, well, great. I'm not stacking on that slate because it's not going to work.
All right. We got 12 games to get through on this main slate, EMac, and we're starting with San Diego at Philly. I believe it's Ryan Weathers on the mound for San Diego.
Thank you. That was who I was missing.
Taijuan Walker for the Phillies. And this is their second game of a doubleheader. Any interest in either of these pitchers?
No, I will say that Taijuan Walker has been solid. He has only given up more than 3 runs, I think 3 times on the entire season. And his last few games, he's like given up 0, 1, or 2. And it's just like, wow, I thought we could pick on him. So I don't want to take him, but I'm really not excited about the Padres. And we have 12 games on this main slate. So There's a lot of other choices. I think the one-offs are okay. The other thing about Walker, though, even if you look at one-offs, he's only allowed 12 home runs in his 96 innings this season. And he's a little bit below average on strikeouts. So it makes him not particularly enticing. But the Padres are just, on that one. For the Phillies, however, I think they are the top stack for this slate. Yes, we have Coors Field and we've got a couple other spots, but I think they are intriguing enough against Weathers. So Weathers had 9 starts and 2 relief appearances, had 40 innings before he got bounced down to AAA. During that time, Neil, a 6.1 ERA, 16 extra base hits, 15 walks, and just 27 strikeouts. AAA, he was down in the Pacific Coast League, 5.6 ERA and 4 starts across 21 innings. He did have 30 strikeouts in those 21 innings, so that's good. He also averaged 97 pitches there. However, I don't know how it's going to translate when he comes back up to the show today, because in his career, he's got a 5.4 FIP and a 4.9 xFIP and an expected ERA of almost 5. So he's still young. He's just 23, but he's better than AAA, but I don't think he's major league ready. And that's a challenge. So your learning curve really is to come just learn on the job in the majors. So tonight we'll want to look to Bohm, Real Muto, and Castellanos. They're all playing in this first game. They can always DH the catcher spot, but those would be the main guys I would look at. Trey Turner would be a secondary option. Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper both crush in lefty-lefty matchups. And as I expected, Harper isn't playing this first one. I think they'll still put Schwarber out there in the second one because he is really good in lefty-lefty matchups. But if he got the night off, that wouldn't surprise me. But those would be the kind of the core 3.5. So it'd be Bohm, Real Muto, hopefully he's in the lineup, Castellanos, and then I'd play Schwarber slightly ahead of Trey Turner.
Okay. And you say you're not interested in playing San Diego here. All right. Yeah, I think we have this right. That we have Taijuan Walker game 2. We had Ranger Suarez game 1.
Ranger Suarez is the announce. I went and looked on Twitter because even ESPN was wrong. MLB.com.
I mean, I just went straight to the news guy who's telling us that, but I think that we had it in there already.
I didn't look at our tools. I was doing game notes for these.
Sure. All right. So tell me, can you rank the 4 sides of this game for me?
Yes.
Have you been forced to do that before? I feel like it's kind of a difficult game sometimes. Adam makes it look easy, but can be tough.
It would be, let me get to my notes here. It would be the Phillies offense, Padres offense, Taijuan Walker, and do not play Weathers under any circumstances.
Okay, perfect. All right, on to game 2, where we have Tampa at Kansas City. Tyler Glasnow on the mound for the Rays, Alec Marsh for the Royals. Any interest in these pitchers?
That's going to be their game 1.
Oh,
so they have a double.
We have multiple doubleheaders. Okay, let me see.
Yes, and you've got the continuation of the St. Louis Washington game. So I believe it's going in the evening game. I think it's Cooper Criswell is coming up from AAA, and I think it's going to be Cole Reagans going for the Royals. There was still a little bit of misinformation or just not confirmed information. We get the double whammy of coming out of the All-Star break.
Sure.
Plus they've got a double header, so they can call up a 26th player for today and put them on a pitcher and put them on the active roster. So a lot of times teams will do that, but I didn't know for sure what they were going to do because again, they got a fully rested bullpen. They haven't pitched in over a week because they were rained out, and then there was the All-Star break. So it's one of those where who are we going to see? But let's see if they confirmed their. We should be able to back into it by looking at what they've confirmed for their.
If it is Reagans, it looks like he's not in the DraftKings player pool, so we don't have to worry about him. At least as far as I can tell, I'm not finding him here. We do have Criswell in the DraftKings player pool. He is 5,100, I believe.
Yep.
7,500. Sorry, 7,500.
So Cooper Criswell, you're not going to want to play him. So he is the 33rd ranked prospect for Tampa Bay. He's played a little bit in the majors, but he was back down with AAA Durham. In his last 2 starts there, he threw 76 and 86 pitches. So he's fully stretched out. He's an afterthought. If we could get this on a sub slate, if there weren't 12 games, we could start talking about him, but there's really no need to. I would just cap him at like 5% and move on. If he comes into a couple lineups for me on DK as an SP2, I'm okay with it, but there's just no reason to go to him. He doesn't have the upside. Reagan's, on the other hand, he has, let me think, I want to say he played for Texas for a little bit, but he's been bouncing around he's with the Royals now. I don't know why I have Texas stuck in my head, but I think he's only played 2 or 3 years. He is an adequate lefty that you will expect to see on and off for the next 5 or 6 years, and he's never really going to do anything. So the answer is yes, we want to play Tampa Bay offense. So the fun thing about the Tampa Bay offense is how good they are, Neil, and it's not going unnoticed, but DFS gamers I don't think they quite appreciate what we're getting here. They're basically top 3 as a team in home runs, extra base hits, on base percentage, and on base plus slugging. So that's pretty impressive, as well as stolen bases. So even though this is game 2 of the doubleheader, they've got plenty of options, and they work to the platoon advantage as best they can. So Yandy Diaz, who was in the All-Star game, he was on the paternity list. I don't know if he'll be back for today's action, but if he's back, he was an All-Star, so he's a pretty good option. But we should say Isaac Paredes probably batting 5th. He is a solid option. Tampa Bay has, I think it's 9 players now that have double-digit home runs. So Wander Franco has double-digit home runs and 28 stolen bases. Taylor Walls has similar with 20 stolen bases. Josh Lowe has 19 stolen bases. That's just crazy. Luke Raley actually leads their team with a 573 slugging percentage. He has 32 extra base hits, 15 of which were home runs, and he's kind of a part-time player-ish. He's got just 125 games in his career. Pretty wild. He's 29, so a bit of a late bloomer, but he's awesome. Randy Arozarena coming off his first All-Star appearance. Everybody loves him. Who else? Jose Siri. You should see him tonight for his power. He's got double-digit home runs. Christian Bethancourt probably will catch. And then you've got rookie Jonathan Arnada, who last I checked yesterday, I didn't look today, but he was at the minimum salary on both DraftKings and FanDuel at $2,000. So Tampa Bay is the answer to many of the questions here. So who do I like? Tampa Bay offense. Who is second? The Tampa Bay offense back half. And who is third? Probably Tampa Bay one-offs. I don't have a fourth. And there are no Kansas City options from this game.
So you're only playing Tampa Bay bats. You're not playing anybody from Kansas City. You're not playing either of the pitchers. All right, that's pretty succinct, pretty easy. We can move on to game 3, which is San Francisco at Pittsburgh. I'm seeing Alex Cobb on the mound for the Giants, Johan Oviedo for the Pirates. Any interest in either of these pitchers?
So did I end up doing special notes for this game? No, I did not. So a little bit for Cobb. He's a little more expensive, but he's your sinker ball special guy. So he is reasonable. Are we really going to need to go there today? Probably not. There's some other options, but he's on the short list for an SP2 on DK and on Yahoo. Oviedo, I really don't have interest in, but he has 5,600. So it'll depend on how lineup construction works on DraftKings. There's no need to go to him on either on Yahoo or FanDuel. If we look at the offensive side of things, we got to remember that San Francisco tends to pinch hit people a lot. Yeah. And so if it's Austin Slater against a lefty leading off, he oftentimes comes out for Lamont Wade. If Lamont Wade is pinch hit for, it's going to be Austin Slater. I was getting Austin Slater and Austin Hayes mixed up. So those guys are kind of a risk. Jock Peterson seems to be doing pretty well, or he doesn't get pulled all that often when they start him. And then Michael Conforto and Mike Yastrzemski, I think, are good across the board. Oviedo, a decent prospect-ish type pitcher. I think his high side is probably a fourth starter. I think there are a lot of playoff-bound teams that would like him to be a multi-inning reliever for them, but he's not a frontline starter. So it becomes kind of interesting here. I'm going to look at, and I wanted to see how many, let's see, Pittsburgh. So when you're looking at, and so here's our, Pirates, I got to spell it right. So when you're looking at what's going on with bullpens, when you have the Giants on the slate, you want to know what the opposing team has in the bullpen, and could they come in and flip the handedness of the pitchers. So Ryan Baruki came in last night. He's their main lefty, and he threw 24 pitches, so I doubt he'll go today. So that makes me feel a little safer about the lefties for the Giants. And the reason they always look cheap is because, the Yastrzemski's, he's been dinged up, but Lamont Wade, et cetera, they get pinch hit for. So a lot of games are only getting 3 at bats. So that tends to keep them about 20% less than where you would think they would be. So if you can get them in a decent matchup against a team like has nothing but righties left or in the bullpen, you can go to their lefties mostly safely. So that's where we always look at them as a secondary stack. I don't know that we'll need to get there tonight, but that is something I do like to call out here, because you can file that away. That's important information, because you don't want to say, oh my God, look how cheap this guy is, and then get mad when he gets pinch hit for. It's like, oh my God, they pulled their number 2 hitter. Well, he was number 2 because they were hoping he'd get 2, maybe 3 at bats against the starter. But as soon as that starter's out, they're taking him out too. So
that is a good call. And if you don't have, like, for those of us who have projections, that's going to be baked in. But if you don't have access to good projections, you might miss something like that. You might just see second in the batting order. That's my guy. Yeah, that's a good call. How would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Cobb number 1, San Francisco bats 2, Pittsburgh bats 3, Oviedo 4. If you are going to go against Cobb, he does a good job of the sinker ball, does a pretty good job of limiting power, more ground ball kind of play. Yi-Min Choi is 2,400. It's on DK. It's costing you a first base slot, but that 2,400 kind of lets you do whatever else you want the rest of your lineup. Carlos Santana, a little bit more expensive at 3,200, switch hitter. So he's not coming out of the game. Those would be the 2 I'd look to. I don't dislike Jack Sawinski at the top of the order, but you're hoping he gets a solo shot or an RBI double. That's tougher to come by against Cobb. So he's the guy I look to a lot for my DK cash lineup. I won't have him in there today because I don't like the matchup with Cobb.
Perfect. All right. We will move on to the next game, but first, let me tell you briefly about our sponsor, Underdog, which, EMac, I don't know if you are able to play on Underdog. I am obsessed with it.
Yes.
You can play on. I mean, I'm obsessed with basically all of the offerings on Underdog. If you guys haven't yet checked it out, you should, for a number of reasons. And first of all, if you haven't yet checked out, you can get your first deposit doubled on Underdog up to $100 by signing up with the link in the description of this video. You've got to be 18 plus to play, 21 plus in Massachusetts or Arizona, 19 plus in Alabama or Nebraska. If you're concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER. But I love Underdog for a number of reasons. Of course, I'm obsessed with the best ball product. I also love this new weekly winners contest where it's sort of something, it's in between best ball and DFS, where they pay out each week. So there's no like cumulative prize for the full season, but every week they're paying the first place $20,000, second place $10,000. There's a little bit of a drop from first to second, but then it's a very flat payout structure, and it's every single week you have these prizes. So it's kind of an interesting nut to crack. A lot of different ways to play that. But one of the reasons that I love it, and this being an MLB show, I should mention this. They actually have daily MLB contests. I don't know. Here it is. Here's one that is up for tonight for the early only contest. $5 to enter. I've had I haven't won it yet, EMac, but I play like 3 to 5 entries, and I've come very close a few times in the limited times I played it. People just don't stack in these contests generally. Not a ton of people do. So if you just stack the right team, I think you can really get a leg up in these daily MLB contests. It's a draft. It's not a salary cap thing, but it seems like the majority of players on Underdog are not stacking. So I think that there's major edge here. Again, you should check it out if you haven't already. A lot of different ways to play on Underdog. It is a ton of fun, and you can get your first deposit match up to $100 using the link in the description of this video. I believe all of our links, I think if you use any of our links, you should also get free access then to our best ball product, which is $40 value. It's going to come with our best ball rankings for Underdog, which is just a CSV that you can download, upload it directly into Underdog, and you'll have access to our rankings, which is really slick as well. So check it out if you haven't already. A lot of fun playing on Underdog. All right.
You got to put the Matt Kajeski seal of approval.
That is right. I mean, there are Gajeski's rankings for Underdog. So, yeah, they're a fantastic rankings. Obviously, you know, Gajeski is a madman. He knows everything you need to know to make good rankings, and he's a very hard worker. So check those out. All right. Next up, we have Miami at Baltimore. Braxton Garrett on the mound for the Marlins. Kyle Gibson for the Orioles. Any interest in these pitchers, EMac?
So yes. So I did do some notes on these guys too. So Kyle Gibson, I think like him as a punt, SP2 on DK and Yahoo, 6,000 on DK, 29 on Yahoo. The Marlins do have a 97 WRC plus over the last year and a half. They also have a mediocre 20% strikeout rate and a low 129 ISO. Gibson doesn't induce a lot of ground balls, but a lot of strikeouts, but he is someone that could be in line for the quality start. I use that as a measurement, even though we don't get points for it on Yahoo and DraftKings. That's only FanDuel only scoring. But I do look at that so I can understand, okay, is there a decent chance my person's going to get the win? And are they probably not going to go negative? So that is a primary consideration for me when I'm looking at somebody that cheap. The other side would be, okay, how volatile are they? And are they getting me a lot of strikeouts? So that's the opposite end of where Gibson is, but that's what I look for in my DK SP2. So if Gibson was 7,500 on DK, 34, 35 on Yahoo, I would not be playing him. I'm playing him because of the price. And no Jazz Chisholm. That really does put a demerit there against the Miami offense. If we look towards Garrett, he was someone that I was looking to stream in some of my leagues because I saw in the streaming article that said, hey, he's only 50% owned. The only leagues I play on ESPN are invite with the folks I used to game with back before DFS existed. So we put, money in the pot, and then we play each other in multiple formats across all the four main sports and do some cross indexing, yada, yada, yada for our win. None of the people that are in the streaming articles are ever in my leagues. You've got to look a day or two ahead because I was like, I'll take Garrett in this one. I started looking at Baltimore. I don't really like Garrett for DFS. Here's the challenge with him. His strikeout rates are just around league average over the last two seasons. So that makes it really, really tough to get upside. Baltimore, while they are worse against lefties than they are righties, they're still a talented team. Now, the interesting thing about them is Anthony Santander. He has just had some amazing numbers. He's a switch hitter, but he's had some amazing numbers against lefties. I like him as a one-off. Normally, I would add Ryan Mountcastle to that list. I can't. And here's what I want to call out for Mountcastle, and I'm a big fan of his. But he missed 2 weeks in June with vertigo. And so for the last, let's call it 3 weeks, he has been down in AAA, and he has not been good in AAA. His triple slash is a 222, 276, 296. That's horrible. That's like you can't, it's hard to be that bad. And then he has a 30% strikeout rate on top of that. So he pinch hit in the game before and then last night. So he's pinch hit on either side of the All-Star break. He may not make the lineup today, depending on how he's feeling. That people have him in the projected lineups, which makes sense since they did call him up from AAA. But it just makes me nervous. So that's kind of a word of warning there, because normally, we do like the Orioles. They're a fun team, and we get to hear Adam talk about them all the time for good reason. This is just one of those spots where it's like, I don't feel that good about them, but I can't quite get to Garrett. So I'm not going to stop my crunches from going anywhere on this, but I doubt I'll stack either team. I'm okay with one-offs. So we'll say I'll jump first. Gibson, number 1. Garrett, number 2. I'm going to go Miami 3rd and Baltimore 4th.
All right, perfect. Trying to pull up our YouTube so I can put links into chat, but we'll first move on to the next game, which is my Twins at Oakland. Pablo Lopez on the mound for the Twins, Hogan Harris for the A's. What's your level of interest in these pitchers, EMac?
So 0 for Hogan Harris. I'm mostly 0 for the Athletics. There's a decent chance they'll put a opener in front of him. It's just rough to be an Athletics fan these days. I feel bad for him. On the other side, though, the Twins, I don't know what happened to Kenta Maeda last night. He only went 3 innings, 80 pitches, but he did get a 6 strikeout. So he hooked up my strikeout props. He didn't do much else for us, but that did work out. I'm going right back to who is it tonight? Pablo Lopez. He is my favorite pitcher on this slate.
Wow.
So this is his first season, of course, with the Twins. Your boys traded Arias for Lopez. Both of them made the All-Star game this year. I don't think anybody should be sad. Lopez did pitch in the All-Star game, but that just 16 pitches, so that'd be like a side session day. So I'm not worried about that. He is averaging a career high 11.2 strikeouts per 9 innings, which I think is rather outstanding. And then the A's projected lineup has 4 different players that have struck out at least 30% of the time against right-handed pitching this season. And if we expand that to the beginning of last year, their projected lineup has 6 players that have struck out 24.9% or more. So Spencer Strider, I'd love to have the money to get him, but it's going to be Pablo Lopez as your true number 1 fantasy point per dollar option today.
Is it going to be difficult to get to both of them? What is Pablo Lopez's price
tag? There's Coors Field on the slate.
Yeah.
There's some other good offensive opportunities. And I'm mostly focusing on DraftKings. So here's why for the builds, it's more interesting on the 2 pitcher sites. Yahoo, they have enough. You'll get the random mispriced, like last night, the $12 Byron Buxton that all of a sudden makes all sorts of other things work. Buxton should probably be like $19 just default. Yeah. Right. So sometimes their players, they have an inconsistent, chaotic dynamic pricing over there on Yahoo. Think of it more like auction values still than anything else. And sometimes it's just, what were you guys thinking? Yeah. DraftKings, they are really goosing the top outfielders and the top corner infield producers. Like we're regularly seeing players get $6,000 not being in Coors Field, right? In the Coors Field, people should be getting it, and they're not. But we're seeing like Acuna. How high are they going to price him? He was 6,600 yesterday. I played him in my cash lineup on DK.
Have you ever seen a bat?
Fine. He didn't get a hit, 2 walks and a steal, and he was like, okay, that was like 11 fantasy points. How can I get mad? Right?
Has any better ever been 7,000 on DraftKings, as you remember?
The only one I could think of is there was a Troy Tulowitzki hot streak to start off a season.
Okay.
When he was with the Rock, obviously when he was with the Rockies and not Toronto, but he may have come close, but I don't know.
I can't remember anybody reaching 7,000, but
I'm trying to think when they were more goosing the Coors Field pricing. I'm trying to think if there was somehow a Mike Trout. That'd be hard since he's not in the NL. I can't think of any NL West players that may have popped that high, but that would be the only that would be the only ones I could think of. So there's maybe been 1 or 2 or 3 the whole time. 6,000 has kind of become the new regular. And the thing with DraftKings you have to remember is, even though they're inconsistent on this, we all have the same things puzzle to work with. FanDuel, while we don't talk about it as detailed, their pricing's looser there. You need to build 4-4 or 4-3 stacks because of how they account for runs and RBIs differently than DraftKings. They give more weight proportionally to runs and RBIs, which makes stacking very, very important. DraftKings gives a little nod to strikeouts and to home runs. So it's different how it works there. DraftKings, you really can get by with 5-5-0 or 4-4-0 stacking. And I do that a fair amount on DraftKings. I do about a third of my lineups 4-4, and then a third 5-0, and then a third 4-0. Because you need the one-off home runs. Whereas on FanDuel, you want a collective team effort to get all the synergy for you. So circling back to DraftKings, it makes it interesting when they have these outlier salaries. Now, what is happening is you'll still be able to find not necessarily mispriced players on teams, but then you'll be able to find the $2,000 Tampa Bay guy, or Brandon Belt last night was $3,100. That'll cost you, Vlad Vlad Guerrero Jr., but you can get all the other Toronto Blue Jays averaging down everything. So you have to look and see, how does that work? What's my secondary stack, which is why I was talking about San Francisco. They're a decent secondary stack. And then what am I doing with pitching, right? So if you spend on pitching, you're not going to get the offense. If you hit on, I want the top Atlanta guys, congratulations, you're going to have two SP2, barely SP2 pitchers. So you have to figure out where you're going to land on these. And then that's why the top stacks tool and the leverage and the boom bust and all of that come into play, because it's a math problem. Right? Where do I want to put most of my risk? What size is your field contest? If it's gigantic, put the risk at pitching, go for the big bats, and if it's smaller, then put earmark more towards pitching.
Sure.
Etc. So,
all right. So
I don't get to analyze as much or talk as much. So I'm going to talk a little more than I normally do. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's 2,300 if you play Pablo Lopez with Spencer Strider. So then you're just 1,000 left over for all of your bats. So yeah, it's a tough puzzle if you try to play both of those. Do you have any interest in Twins bats against Hogan Harris?
So Buxton, yes, and I actually thought I was going to write them up as a stack, but they're better as one-offs. They haven't been that good against lefties, and I think it's because the right combination of players hasn't been healthy.
Sure.
Either they've been on the actual injured list, or they're rusty because they're dealing with nagging injuries like Carlos Correa or whatever it is. So I thought I would get there more, and I wasn't enough to write them up. Now I could be missing something, and because I write up my stuff before most of our projections are out, so I didn't run up a lot of crunches and stuff. But I thought they were going to be a featured stack when I started writing my article last night, and I left them in as a placeholder, and I took it out because I just couldn't get there today. And I hate Hogan Harris. Do not play him.
How would you rank the four sides of the game?
I would. Oops, let me get back to that page. Sorry. Too many tabs. Number 1 is Pablo Lopez. 2 is going to be the Twins offense. You really want to focus on Buxton. I think Donovan Solano is okay. Carlos Correa is fine, but the rest of them are so damn cheap. Oh my God, Neil, are they really all below $3,000? Except for Correa and that. Jeez Louise.
Is that right?
Yeah, I didn't see that. So there's your double stack with Coors Field on
Twins. Same as last night. Yeah, they have a 15% chance of being the top value stack today. Highest on the board by a wide margin. So
I like it when it's a little bit more challenging than that. Now, on the other side, on the A's, I don't think I'll even end up with any one-offs against Lopez. And this would be this is where you want to start talking about leverage opportunities, because Lopez is going to be popular.
Yeah.
What's a worst case scenario for him? He gives up 3 home runs and 4 earned runs.
Right.
That does not make a stack. So
true.
Sorry, Oakland. Sorry. Yeah. So Oakland is a distant pitcher and hitters, just distant third.
All right. Perfect. All right. We'll move on to Milwaukee at Cincinnati. I did want to call it. Ken Ratty has been playing fantasy sports longer than you have. He said he had to rewind. He's been playing since 1987.
Nice.
First fantasy baseball league in 1987. That is pretty nuts. Also wanted we got a question about this last one. David Galindo asked, "Is Lopez not worth playing on FanDuel?" I think that he's still worth playing on FanDuel. Would you agree with that?
I think so. Let me go call up FanDuel here, because I don't want to give them the short shrift. No, I think he's totally fine. So he's definitely going to be in play for the quality start, which is key on FanDuel. If we look at, we're going to be, let's see, he is 10,900. So where is Strider? So he's going to get, I haven't looked at our tools, but I bet he's coming in half the popularity of Strider, if not a third, would be my guess.
Yeah.
So I think Strider's going to be everybody's favorite, but I think Lopez is 2, Framber Valdez we haven't talked about. He's 3, and George Kirby's going to be 4 on
we have
FanDuel for me.
It is interesting.
I may say some nice things about Freddie Peralta here in a second.
All right. Well, all right. We're just about to get there. I'll say on FanDuel, the pricing is much closer between Spencer Strider and Pablo Lopez. Strider at 11,600, Lopez at 10,900. Strider is 34% projected ownership, Pablo Lopez 19%. So just over half the ownership. Yeah.
So look at that. I called that out without even looking at it.
Yeah, that's right. And so I'd say yes, still worth playing on FanDuel, even though it's a little bit tougher to get there given Spencer Strider being closer in price. But yeah. All right. So you want to let's talk about this Milwaukee Cincinnati game. Freddie Peralta on the mound for the Brewers, Andrew Abbott for the Reds. What is your level of interest in these pitchers, EMac?
Definitely tournament viable for both of them. So Peralta got smacked around for 10 runs. I'm going to say it was Atlanta. I don't have his game log up in front of me. But his last 7 games, 37 and 2/3 innings, the opposing triple slash line, a 203 average, 295 slugging. They do have a 435 on base percentage, or slugging plus on base, but on base percentage. I was looking at too many things this morning. 49 strikeouts in those 37 innings. Cincinnati, dynamic, Neil. They're pretty good. They've got some young players, but they're very inconsistent. 4 batters in their projected lineup already have a 25% or higher strikeout rate. That includes De La Cruz, but of course he should be in the Hall of Fame already after playing 26 games or whatever it is. Right. If we stretch that out over the last 2 seasons, the collective projected lineup has a 24% strikeout rate. So I think Peralta is rather intriguing here. Now this is in the Reds' home park, which is conducive to runs, and it was conducive to 1 run yesterday. So did they save him up for today? I don't know. But that's Great American Ballpark always, it's very similar to Coors Field. It's actually better for home runs, but not quite for runs because the outfield's small rather than spacious. So it goes over the wall before it touches grass. So I'm in on Peralta. On the other side, we have an intriguing option here in Abbott. So Abbott is in his last start against these Milwaukee Brewers, he allowed 6 earned runs in 4 1/3 innings. Prior to that, his other 6 starts, he had 5 runs combined. So the truth lay somewhere in the middle. But the Brew Crew striking out 26.6% of the time. That is 3rd most against lefties this season. That plays in Abbott's favor. He's a rookie. What are we going to get? Well, he was kind of on that same trajectory as Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo. He's healthy right now. That's good. Graham Ashcraft was also on that trajectory as well. He just can't seem to consistently get strikeouts, even though he has really good stuff. I like the pitchers on both sides of here. Now, the interesting thing is the warmth, the humidity, the ballpark is putting some high run numbers here. But I think that's going to keep some people away in tournaments from the pitching side, which is some built-in differentiation. Do you want to stack against these guys? Knock yourself out. 0 issue with that. I'll probably have 5 to 6% stacks of both of these teams just because things can go sideways. But Milwaukee does struggle somewhat against lefties.
All right, so you don't mind stacking these teams. How would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
Peralta, Abbott, Milwaukee. No, Peralta, Abbott, the Reds, Milwaukee.
So we got 2% ownership going to the Red stack and Milwaukee 7%. So actually people are getting to Milwaukee a little bit.
If you go look, it's going to be the Milwaukee gets really concentrated on about 3 or 4 players at the top of their lineup and zeros for everybody else.
All right, so easy to get contrarian within the stack. All right. Next up, we have Los Angeles at New York. Tony Gonsolin on the mound for the Dodgers. Kodai Senga for the Mets. What's your level of interest in these pitchers, EMac?
I respect both offenses enough that I would rather roll the dice with the inconsistency of the game we just talked about than go to either of these pitchers. If you are looking, trust is not the best of words when it's Kodai Senga. He's a rookie, but he had, was pitching in the NBL since he was 19. So he's got, a decade plus. I can't remember which team he wasn't for. I don't think he was for the Ham Fighters, but so he's been around for a while. It just not in the major league. So we've seen his strikeouts kind of come and go. He's definitely a good starter. He's probably like a 2.5 starter, maybe a number 2 starter, which is pretty lofty company in the majors. Gonsolin, on the other hand, he's okay. it's better when he's kind of the fourth or fifth starter in the rotation. With all the different injuries the Dodgers have had, it now stands out when you're counting on him to get wins or to keep the game close. And you're like, gee, I don't know if he can do that. He doesn't have enough strikeout stuff to keep himself out of trouble. And I think the luster of him being on the Dodgers has kind of clouded a lot of our perception of where he is. So I'm not particularly interested in him. Senga, there's so many other players at the same price, unless you actively set your caps appropriately or lock him in to build out like 2% or 3% of your lineups. I doubt you'll get much of him in the with the optimizers.
Sure.
I just want to see. Yeah, so he's 98 on FanDuel, 96 on DK. So he's pretty spendy on both. If we look for bats here, I'm fine with one-offs on both sides for some home run hunting. I don't think you need to stack, but Max Muncy, Freddie Freeman would be the two Dodgers I think are very good. On the Mets side, I like Nimmo. When he leads off, he usually is going to get 4 or 5 at bats. Obviously, Pete Alonso. Daniel Vogelbach is rather interesting on DK at 2,300 as a one-off. Again, cost you the first base spot. He's probably in a better position than Yi-Man Choi to do something, but he is definitely a pinch hit risk or a pinch running risk as well too. It doesn't necessarily have to be pinch hitting. If he's on base and they are going to need some speed on there because there's an out or two, they will pinch run for him. So
yeah, he's a big guy, right? Pretty chunky.
All-star Dan Vogelbach.
All-star Dan Vogelbach.
All-star. Yeah.
How would you rank the 4 sides of the game?
The one-off home runs, Senga and Gonsolin. I just don't see stacking this one. The leverage isn't going to be there. Could one of these teams put up 7, 8 runs? Yeah. Okay, but what if 4 other teams do that? Now we're not knocking out a bunch of people that had those pitchers. The math says it's not going to be plus EV.
Sure. Okay.
We should simulate this like 40,000 times.
We should. Yeah, I don't know. Nobody could do that though. That's out of anybody's range of Are you telling me that I should pull up the Sims tool right now? I guess this does seem like a fine time to bring up the Sims tool, which because I've already got it pulled up on this tab. Here's our pre-contest simulator, guys. If you haven't checked it out, check out the contest simulator. We've all been using it. We've had a lot of success using this pre-contest simulator. You just have to make the lineups up. So you'll need an optimizer. I use Fantasy Cruncher to make your lineups. You make anywhere. Here are the numbers, anywhere from 250 to 2,000 lineups. It has to be, these are the increments, have to be exact. So it has to be 250, 500, 1,000, 1,500, or 2,000. You make those lineups and then you'll simulate them against each other. So generally for me, I'm trying to just match what the field is doing with my lineups. I'm using our ownership projections to set caps on ownership on individual players and on stacks, making 2,000 lineups, crunching them against each other, and it's going to spit out the best lineups that you make in those sims against each other. Really cool tool that you should check out if you haven't already. I think that's all I'm going to say about this for now, EMac, unless you have anything you want to add.
I just want to add a couple quick things since I don't get to talk about this. My shows usually we talk about the lineup generator on Sundays. So this is like the next level beyond the lineup generator. Is this a must-have? No, it's not. If you're 150 maxer, yeah, this is probably a good idea, but you need to understand how to use it. So Neil was saying you need to mimic what we think the field is doing. Great. We can kind of get close on player ownerships, but how those teams combine with each other and who's stacking with what and which pitchers and which stacks, that's more of the crapshoot, right? There are better ways to refine that, but nothing's perfect on that. But these are simulating against each other, not the rest of the field. We don't have a representation of the field yet. We know what the payout is for these kind of size contests, but if you put in 200 lineups of, I don't know, crappy team going against an ace, it's going to tell you which of those 200 lineups has the best positive value. And you put those in a tournament and they're going to lose.
Right.
They were the best amongst the things you put there, right? So you put a bunch of crap in there, it's going to tell you which is the best of the crappy ones. Yeah, that's why we want a representation of the field. Okay, here's where the masses have gotten. If I want to narrow that down, what's bubbling up to the top more often than not? And what it's going to show you is it's going to put some players up there that are somewhat uncomfortable, or it's going to make you take a stand on some of the players the pitchers we've just had. We're not going to go there. It's going to have you go there because when they hit, there's going to be less people on them. That gives you the bigger payouts, right? You got to understand math, the time horizon, all of that.
Yep.
If you're a savvy, sophisticated gamer, this is for you. I'm close to that, and I don't use this. I've played around with it. I understand it, etc. I can get done what I need to do. I'm more of the simple-minded version of looking at the lineup generator. But I think this is an incredibly powerful tool. When do we really want to use it? For football, when you've got a lot of time to figure some stuff out. I'll be using it for that. Baseball, I think it's good for it. This is my busy season at work. I can't. I'm doing content. I'm doing day job. I'm playing. I haven't figured out how to use this. I've played around with it and on FanDuel a little bit in their nickel contest, just to sort of see what's happening. And I made some dumb mistakes early because I didn't understand we needed a representation of the field. I was just crunching 2,000 lineups. Tell me which 2,000 lineups are these. And I'm like, why are you playing the ones I don't want very much? Okay, this must be smarter than me. It is smarter than me. It's doing exactly what I told it to, and I shouldn't have told it to do that.
Right.
I should have told it to do what is the field doing and tell me how is the wisdom of the masses most likely to be successful through 40,000 simulations.
And I'll add, so you gave the example of if you put a bunch of shit lineups in there, it's going to spit shit out as the best lineups that come out. But the inverse is also true. Like if we have, say, the Padres with a 25, that's probably not the best example. If we have the Yankees in Coors Field with a 25% chance of being the best stack at 20% ownership, and you say, oh, I want a bunch of Yankees, so you put 60% of your stacks are Yankees, those are going to look bad going up against each other in Sims because they're way overowned if you put in 60% Yankees. So it really is. It's about how much you put in, but regardless, it is going to give you the best of the lineups that you put in are generally going to rise to the top. So very cool tool. And I'm with you. So I use it whenever I have the time to. I'll use the Sims tool. And if I'm playing more than 20 lineups, if I'm playing fewer than 20 lineups, I just use the lineup generator typically. But if I'm playing more than 20 and I have the time, certainly I like to play around with the Sims tool. It's still new to us as well. But yeah, if you haven't yet,
I think it's great for golf because you have time. Basketball is going to be interesting. We don't have to worry so much about the correlation in basketball, right? There's not a lot of correlation in basketball. There's only one person can score on a bucket. Yeah, you can get an assist, but how often is that going to happen? Even if you have 10 assists, maybe 4 of them go to the leading scorer or something. Right. There's really not a lot of correlation in that. This will be awesome because it'll help you figure out what combinations work the best, taking into all the boom bust considerations, the field, the leverage, and then the minor game flow or point total correlations.
Yeah.
But what doesn't it do? Account for immediate scratches.
Right.
or wonky lineups coming out surprisingly. Now most teams were better this last year with that mandate that they needed to announce things 30 minutes before tip. We still had some issues, but they weren't as frequent as they are. I'm looking forward to using this for basketball. I'm looking forward to using this for football. I just don't have time for baseball right now to use it appropriately. So I don't want to not sell it to you guys. It's like when you're ready to use it, give it a try.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah. If you're 150 maxing or playing really high stakes, it's absolutely. I've told people sometimes, like, if you're playing less than $200 a day, it's probably not worth it. With the exception of if you're playing like the really cheap contest and you're 150 max, and then it still might be. Like, I don't know if you're playing every day the 150 max 50-cent contest or whatever is available out there. I haven't been able to play them for years, so I don't actually know what's available at the low stakes. But if you're like 150 max in low stakes, maybe it's worth it for less than $200 a day. But generally, I'd say that's like kind of my cutoff for where I'm like, yeah, you should probably check out the Sims if you're playing more than $250 a day. We should move on to the next game.
Sorry. This is good. It's a strategy.
No, I mean it's always fun to do shows with you, Matt, because I know you're just antsy to get your thoughts out there. You don't get the opportunity all the time. You don't get to do shows because you're so busy with your main job. So it's good when we can do these shows. I also one more thing. So Paul C says, Ken Ruddy, nice. That beats me. My first one was 1988. Won my league with the Ron Gant late round pick. I love this because it makes me feel young. All you olds talking about your starting fantasy sports in the 1980s. I was born in 1983, so you guys can start calling me Young Neil. All like relative to the people in chat. I'm a super young guy. All right.
I seem to remember on my first or second year playing a skinny second baseman named Julio Franco.
Ooh,
for Texas. All right. That sound about right?
Yeah, nice. We've got Washington at St. Louis. Steven Matz on the mound for the Cards. Jake Irvin for the Nats. Any interest in these pitchers, EMac?
Oh, we did get this. Oh, I didn't realize this game was going to be on the slate. No, not really. If you like, I'll set a 10% cap on Steven Matz. If he comes into my lineups, I'm fine with it. If Kyle Gibson starts to get really popular, or some of these other secondary options start to get on 15-20% of the teams, then now you look to Matt's. Washington, not great. They're not a disaster. They limit strikeouts pretty well, but they don't have a ton of power. Matt's was a good pitcher in various points in time. He, on any given start, could he be okay? Sure. But strikeouts have fallen, power's gone up. His overall dominance has gone down. It's just, it's Father Time is undefeated, and Matt's is slowly being reeled back in. Do I want to target him? No, the Nationals lineup isn't that great. Do I want to go with the Redbirds? Why, yes. Yes, Neil, I think we should. Who did you say was the pitcher here for?
Jake Irvin for the Nats.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Okay, sorry. I that partial game threw me there. So Jake Irvin, I want to say he is a rookie. He has, or he might have played an inning or a start or two last year, but he's just been no great shakes. 30% fly ball rate across his 260 batters faced. I guess most of them were this season. He's lefties can get him for power, still a small sample size, so we'll see how he handles righties. It crappy double-digit walk rate, so his control's not great. He doesn't really have strikeout pitches. He strikes out 15% of the hitters. That's awful. What's his swinging strike rate? His swinging strike rate is 6%. Neil, that's like half of what a good starter would be.
It's not great. How old is Steven Matz? Oh no, you're talking about Jake Irvin.
I'm sorry, Jake Irvin. He's 25 or 26, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that's not great.
Yeah. So I think you want to look to the usuals from the Cardinals. I don't know how these Cardinals have just been so bad, because they basically have a very similar lineup to what they've had for the last X amount of time. But Lars Nootbaar got a home run last night. He's always fun to root for. I never thought he'd be more than like a fourth outfielder, yet here he is, an everyday player batting third. Yeah. You've got the Nolans, Arenado, and Gorman are interesting. Goldschmidt is fine. Could they be sellers for the first time in 20 years? I asked this of Greg yesterday. When was the last time we saw a really bad, like, not, oh my God, we're not making the playoffs, our fans hate us bad, but like an actual honest to God bad dregs St. Louis Cardinal team, like forever?
Are they that bad now, or you mean after they sell?
No, they're bad right now.
I didn't realize they were that bad.
Yeah.
Look at the lineup. It doesn't look like a terrible lineup.
No, we get lost in the lineups. I'm sure we have some Cardinals fans watching. So let's see here. Currently, the Cardinals have two more wins than the Washington Nationals.
Ooh.
Would you have thought that? They're 38-52.
Yeah, that's not ideal. I mean, it's not that 38-52 is bad. I guess it is pretty bad. So it's so flat in MLB, like the top to the bottom. It's like everybody's like, nobody's losing 90% of their games in MLB.
Yeah. So they're only winning 42% of the time. Your Twins and my Mariners are winning 50% of the time. That's a big difference.
That is a big difference. All right. So how would you rank the four sides of this Washington-St. Louis game?
St. Louis bats. Matt's only as an SP2. Washington one-offs, and then don't play Irvin.
Franco Harris. Benny Levine says, never mind Julio Franco. EMac remembers Franco Harris.
He was like one of my favorite players. So when I started, it's 1977 when the Seahawks came around. I was in second grade. So I didn't know the time before the Seahawks. They were just kind of there when I was learning about football. This is back when we had 2 channels, really 3, but one of the network transistor satellites would get hit by lightning and not work in the tiny little town where I lived, and they didn't have money to replace it. So we basically got 2 channels. We saw the Dallas Cowboys and the Pittsburgh Steelers all the time. You could see them more often than the Seahawks. But Franco Harris getting traded to the Seahawks after he held out, I was like, oh my God, my favorite player. This is going to be so great. I didn't understand what happens to washed running backs that hold out a training camp. He was a disaster.
Oh, no.
But yes, fond memories. I hadn't thought about that in a long time. But yes, Franco Harris.
GoFi says he dropped the ball. Is that a reference to
no, the Immaculate Reception.
Yeah.
No, he did not.
Okay, all right.
No, he did not. Frenchie Fuqua, Franco Harris.
I know that I've watched the play, but I can't remember exactly how it looks.
They didn't have camera angles on all of it, so they basically cut to where it looks like he's catching it off the ground because you can't see from the angle they always show. And they cut to that because they really don't have much to show, but they've shown still footage or pictures of it, and it wasn't on the ground.
All right. He caught
3 bricks shy of a load.
All right.
That's a Steelers biography, or you should check that out.
All right. I might check it out. It's
first book I read with swears in it. I think I was 12.
Oh no.
I think they said 12. Bullshit is what one of the players called something.
Corrupted young EMac back in 1896. All right. We've got the Chicago at Atlanta. Lance Lynn on the mound for the White Sox. Spencer Strider for the Braves. Guess you're going to have some interest here. What is your level of interest?
Strider, if you want to go that route, absolutely. He is a golden god. I believe we can say that. I haven't looked lately, but he was striking at like 14 per 9 innings, some ungodly thing like that. Yeah. He is amazing. We're paying for it today. That's fine. I see no issues. This is a good team to go for against strikeouts. Matt Olson, when I looked at him this morning, Neil, he had a 250. His money line was 250 to hit a home run. They're saying 1 in 4 times he's going to hit a home run against Lance Lynn. Should you be allowed to say something like that? That felt a bit much. I felt we needed a bit better payout for that. So when I wrote up in my article, the wager of the day, I said, pair that with the over or pair that with the Atlanta money line win, and you can get it closer to plus 350. That makes it a little more worthwhile because if he's going to hit a home run, they're probably going to win, I would think, against Lance Lynn, who has just been dreadful this season.
We have a 26.5% chance of Matt Olson hitting a home run in the top batters tool. So not a bad pick.
Yeah, which made sense because it said that plus 250 is really closer to plus 236 per the True Odds feature on Odd Shopper, which is another way to measure expected value. So see, look, all of our tools are working in conjunction with each other.
Yeah. All right. So
load them up on Atlanta. You can't say bad things about them. You are going to pay for that, which is absolutely fine. Their entire infield and Acuna were in the All-Star game this year.
Sure.
That's impressive. Six
impressive.
Players and Strider. So today's lineup is literally the National League All-Star team.
Crazy. So how would you rank the 4 sides of this game?
Strider, Olson, Acuna. They get their own categories, Neil.
All right.
Then the Atlanta bats. Then Chicago. So let's think about leverage in this situation. What's a bad game for Strider?
2 innings gives up. I mean, he'll get 6 strikeouts, but gives up 5 runs.
I was going to say, whatever you were going to say, I was like, but how many strikeouts does he have? So does that really, it's almost, and now he's going to do it, and I'm sorry for jinxing this and putting this out there. It's almost impossible, knock on wood, for him to go negative. Right.
Sure. I mean, that's true of most. Like, not many pitchers are going negative for this score. But yeah, I mean, it's certainly a lot harder for a Strider given the number of strikeouts.
Yeah, like who was your? Why am I blanking? Kenta Maeda, 3 innings, 80 pitches, gave up 2 or 3 runs, still had 6 strikeouts. What do you have? Like 11 DraftKings points or something when I finally went to bed.
Right.
Wasn't the end of the world, right?
Yeah.
I don't see Strider doing. That's like a floor.
Yeah,
which is terrifying to think about. That's cocky to say something, but what is he's like a 15 fantasy point floor.
He did score 3 fantasy points on June 8th against the Mets. Outside of that game, I mean, it's just
how many innings did he pitch? Was that a weather game?
Let's see.
Did he feel a twinge?
On June 8th, he pitched 4 innings. He gave up 8 earned runs. So he actually had 8 strikeouts, but he gave up 8 earned runs in 4 innings. Ended up getting him. So, you know, it can happen, but certainly rare for Strider to put up that few fantasy points.
Yeah. Benny, I agree. Even as a Seahawks fan and a Franco fan, he should have I wish he had retired as Pittsburgh. That was wrong.
Do you think that in part, though, because he did poorly once he got to Seattle?
It was different back then because players hardly changed teams.
Right.
So and I was too young to understand free agency. I don't think it existed at that point in baseball, or it had just started. And then it was like you were as best you could get was like a restricted free agent or something, or a plan B. It was just like, it was like some weird thing that really meant if you talked another team into signing you, maybe the team would agree to let you go or something. It was just like, they had to give draft picks or something. It was just, collusion ran rampant back then.
Interesting. All right, we still have 3 games to get through, and this next one is kind of
good. I've got 4 more stories completely off topic and not even from this millennia.
We're ready for them, EMac. We'll work them into these last 3 games. This one kind of important one because it's in Coors Field. It is New York at Colorado. Clark Schmidt on the mound for the Yankees. Connor Siebold for the Rockies. Are you playing any pitchers in Coors Field today?
No, I don't see any reason. And here's the caveat: there's a 2-game late slate. This one isn't on it. It's only on the main slate. So sometimes and there's no sub slate because of so many games starting at 7. It doesn't look like there's a sub slate. So I don't think there's any reason to go to either of these pitchers.
Okay. Easy analysis there. How about the bats here?
Let me call up the lineups here. Did we ever find out why Grichuk left the game early yesterday?
I did not. Maybe chat can answer that one.
Chat, if you do know that one, I see he's not in the projected lineups. He was pinch hit for, I'm blanking, Nolan Jones pinch hit for him, and then I think he got like a home run, and then he had a great catch in the outfield. If I remember, I was at that point my teams were doing so bad I wasn't really paying that close of attention to the game. But so I think you can look. So Schmidt's an okay pitcher. I say that tentatively because last year he did pretty good at limiting the power. He had just a combined 142 ISO. That was across 250 bats. This year against 380, though, his ISO has jumped to 186, which is sort of like batting practice. Strikeouts are down to 22%. That's right around batter league average. It's a little below pitcher league average because the relievers kind of muck with that and people get bounced out of the league. So no, there's nothing intriguing about him. So I would say it looks the best thing we can do looks to be going to the lefties against him, which would sadly only be McMahon and Nolan Jones. Profar leadoff guy, if he ever makes contact, he's pretty good. Or how am I saying this? If he makes hard contact, you're happy.
Yeah.
He does a good job of limiting strikeouts. He takes more than his share of walks, but he doesn't, when the ball's in play, it doesn't always do fun things, sadly. And we need the fun things for fantasy. So I don't think he's a good leadoff hitter. I'd rather have him batting 7th, but on this team, he's the best they've got.
Yeah.
Those look to the lefties first, and then CJ Cron. I just love him. I wish he was healthier than he has been. He was in Minnesota for a while, right?
Yeah, a couple years ago.
But he was in Arizona and Anaheim. I mean, he's been around. He's just a good power hitter. Yeah. I was expecting more from him in Coors Field, but it's mostly been injury things. But I like he's fine in righty-righty matchups. Chris Bryant used to be really good in righty-righty matchups, probably even better than he was against lefties. That the injuries and age have sort of robbed him of that.
Sad. I'm guessing, and you haven't really even talked about the Yankees yet. I'm guessing there's something there.
Yes. So the Yankees, of course, let's flip over to them. They're going against Connor Siebold. Connor Siebold pitches in Coors Field, even when he's not pitching in Coors Field. He is not good. 17% strikeout this year, sub 20% last year. His this will be fun. His combined isolated power across his last 420 batters faced is a 265. That makes everybody look like Shohei Ohtani.
Nice.
So there you go. You have a whole team of Yankees that are going to be Shohei Ohtani tonight. Sad that Aaron Judge is hurt, but he did take batting practice last night. I heard them say on the telecast. I think he just wanted to hit bombs with Stanton in Coors Field. But
yeah, probably.
We'll see. So Stanton all over the place with his results. Got one last night because that was against a lefty. He's fine against Connor Siebold. Josh Donaldson. he was a former MVP like Stanton. I don't have much else to say about him. I'd rather play him against a lefty, but he's in the everyday lineup. You're just going to go to the Yankees en masse. Get 4 of them and move on. It's hard to, they're not great. They're old. They're all old. Is lightning going to strike me for saying that?
I don't know.
I'm a little worried about that. But is anybody exciting there? Bader, against lefties. McKinney would be nice if he actually made contact. Franchi Cordero, there's your home run call of the night from the 9 hole. Seth, this one is for you. Finn Hader.
You can't take your home run pick from Coors though. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to.
Franchi Cordero.
Coors is the rule. Coors is
the 9 hole. I think
all right. Maybe we'll allow. We'll see once we get to the end of the show. All right. So you're not. It doesn't sound like you're as excited about the Yankees.
No, but they're going to be all over my lineups because they're of the way the pricing works and the projections. This is going to be an interesting fade spot because I really think you could go with the Rays.
Okay. All right. How would you rank the 4 sides of this Yankees in Coors game?
Yankees, bats, Rockies, bats. Don't play either pitcher.
Okay. Zachary Cherry says, hey, a long time sub with a Sims question. I'm a high dollar, $250 to $550 plus single entry and small field GPP player on DraftKings. 1 lineup per day. Did the week sub to check out the Sims product, but sounds like this isn't suited to how I play. I actually think that it is. I think that it is fine to play single entry at that level of stakes, in part because if you look at the Sims tool, let me pull it back up. So
here's a good way to say what you might want to do with that if you haven't already played enough at that level to sort of know what your competitors are going to be doing. Chalk is even more chalky at the higher buy-in.
Yep.
Smaller contest, limited, 1 through 5, 10, 20 lineups. So you can build out you can replicate that field a little more easily than you can the other one because you're just the ownership's just going to be that much more concentrated on the more popular players. Now that's not going to totally be reflected in our tools, but if you've played at those stakes enough, you know that a 30% owned pitcher is probably 50% in those stakes. You know that a 50% owned Mike Trout is probably 70% in those stakes. You can create that and you can start to see where the expected value leverages. So if you're not as worried about a min cash and you're playing for that top 0.1% outcome, I think the Sims tool would be helpful for you, but you're still you can only pick one of the lineups, right? You might see a trend. Hey, maybe this stack I wasn't totally thinking about has 5 of the top 9 expected value spots. That could help you kind of narrow down what you're going to do, but it depends how you're trying to do it. If you're looking to have fun, look for some of the leverage, hopefully get some top 10 finishes and kind of min cash a lot of the time, the Sims tool is not for you. The lineup generator probably is.
Right.
But the Sims tool it's better as trying to sort through vast quantities of data and give you a directionally correct answer if you understand the inputs you've put in.
Yep, I think that's good enough. I mean, so as EMac said, you gotta adjust your ownership a little bit. So when you are creating your lineups, because the ownership that we have on site right now is for large field GPPs. So you need to adjust a little bit because you know that it's going to be the chalk is going to be a little bit more condensed, as EMac says. So you just need to adjust the way you use it a little bit. But it is I think that it's good for those kind of.
I think it would be eye-opening for someone at those stakes to get it for a month and try a bunch of different things just to see what, this is like you, instead of looking backwards and back testing stuff, it's like, okay, well, let me kind of see what today is bringing. And I think it will explain to you a lot about the payout structures and what you should or shouldn't be doing, depending on your risk tolerance. If you like the dopamine hit of the min cash, this isn't going to be for you. But if you're like, okay, I'm dedicating to this, I know I'm going to play 180 days of baseball, I know I need to win 2 or 3 first places in this particular thing throughout the entire year, it's probably worthwhile to look at because it at least probably will get you off things that just mathematically would not be a great concept. Could they still come true to that day? Yes, because these are probabilities. Like, it's a 20% chance he's going to be the best pitcher. You know what happens the other 80% of the time? He's not the best pitcher, right?
Right. Yeah, and I want to add that just because of the number of lineups you can put in, so like for large field stuff, you're kind of trying to sample the field, but you can try to replicate the field almost exactly in those contests where it is like 500 entries into a contest. Like you can put 500 here, so you can more accurately represent the full field in those contests as well. So there are some benefits to playing those, but enough of an aside there. Just wanted to answer that question. We've got 2 games left, EMac. Houston at Los Angeles.
And the producer's not mad. We don't
even have anybody yelling at us. I think this is the only show of the day. So like we don't have, I could be wrong. Somebody's going to come yell at me and be like, hey, we have a show starting in 5 minutes. We have Houston at Los Angeles. Framber Valdez on the mound for the Astros. Reed Detmers for the Angels. Any interest in the pitchers, EMac?
Yes. So definitely for Framber. I think he's kind of the 4th best option on the slate. And this, I'm just going to put some filters on this. So the challenge here for Los Angeles is obviously no Mike Trout. And I don't know if Anthony Rendon is back on the injured list, but he can't stay healthy anymore. And even if he's in the lineup, he's a total zero. And I loved him when he was a Washington National. And I was so sad when they did not keep him. But the rest of this lineup does have decent strikeouts, particularly their lesser players. So, well, even their better player, like Ohtani strikes out 28% of the time. He also has 246 ISO, which is pretty impressive, even in lefty-lefty. But Hunter Renfroe strikes out 25% of the time. So there's some strikeouts here. The fun thing with Framber is his insane ground ball rate, which has actually ticked up a little bit this year. So this season, he has just a 56.4% ground ball rate. Well, wow, that's really good. Yeah, but over the 3 prior years, it was closer to 66, 67%. What has changed? Well, he now is a strikeout pitcher fair amount of the time. He's striking out people 25% of the time. So math says if he were striking people out 25% of the time and he had a 66% ground ball rate, that leaves like a 3% fly ball rate, right? So something's got to give here. So he's accepting to give up less strikeouts, but he's an above average strikeout pitcher, which makes him phenomenal, which puts him in play for the quality start, which is huge on FanDuel. So is it kind of tough because we've got Pablo Lopez and we've got Spencer Strider there? Yes, but he would be a viable alternative to those two, and I think he's totally fine. And I think he's good on DraftKings and Yahoo as well. If we look at Reed Detmers, he is – why is the filter changing? So he has the luxury of not having to face Jose Altuve or Yordan Alvarez. Still got to go against Kyle Tucker and then an entire write-up of righties, but it's not as daunting as it has been. Detmers is striking out almost 30% of hitters this year. That's just against 366. But since the beginning of last year, against 900 hitters, 900 batters faced, he has a 25% strikeout rate. That's pretty good. However, we're getting a lot of howevers. However, the Astros don't strike out much against lefties because you have Mauricio Dubon, less than 10%. Alex Bregman, less than 10%. Kyle Tucker, 13%. That's very, very low. Those 3 guys reel back in the Jake Myers, the Martin Maldonados, the Jas McCormicks of the team to create a pretty low rate. So it's the main, and I was looking at this on the late slate, just the 4 games. So there's 3 interesting pitchers. Detmers is your tournament pitcher on the late slate. I'm not going to stop him from coming into my main slate lineups as an SP2, but I doubt I'll get much. If any. Where do we have him at the field? I would say I would cap him at 10%. So if I got 10%, I'm great with that. I would suspect, what is he, 5 or 6 probably on DK.
I had FanDuel pulled up, so let me get back there. For Detmers, we have him at 9% projected ownership, 11% chance of being a top 2 pitcher. So yeah
10% is fine for me.
Yeah, that seems about right.
And I'm okay matching the field, right? And I'd be like, hey, if the field was at 3 and I was at 10, hey, I'm fine with that too.
Sure.
Because of the strikeouts. But this is the other thing, Neil, that yesterday, today, tomorrow, aces are all kind of concentrated because we had the reset of the All-Star break. So we want to remember, it's like there's not as many gas can opportunities, so people are flocking to those opportunities, even though there's 12 games going tonight.
Sure. Yeah, good point. How would you rank the 4 sides of this Houston-Los Angeles game?
Framber, Ohtani, Houston, Ohtani again, and then the rest of the Angels.
All right. So you're very interested in what about Detmers? Is Detmers in play for? I mean, you sounds like he is in play for you.
He would be third. He would be, well, I would say he is. You're right. He should really be after Framber and ahead of Houston.
Okay. And ahead of Ohtani.
Yes.
All right. So
Ohtani's not pitching. That's Ohtani is a hitter trying to get a home run against a guy that doesn't allow a lot of home runs.
Yeah.
Doesn't allow a lot of balls in the air.
Sure.
If anybody's going to hit a home run, it's going to be Ohtani. I wonder what they faced each other a few times already. Okay, you can lead us to the next game.
Well, we only have one game left, and it is your Seattle Mariners. We've got Detroit at Seattle. Michael Lorenzen on the mound for the Tigers. George Kirby for your Mariners. Any interest in either of these pitchers?
So that would be all-star Michael Lorenzen. Did you know he started out his college days as an outfielder? Cal, was he at Fullerton? Caves at he's at one of the California schools, not the Pac-12 schools, but one of the schools. Anyway, he was, and then his last 2 years he was the closer and a starting outfielder. When he came up through Cincinnati, he did play in the outfield some. I think he has like 34 actual outfield starts. He's been used as a pinch hitter. I wrote him up in my article just for fun, 29 times. And he also was the first player since Babe Ruth to hit a home run, get the win, and play field a position in the same game.
Nice.
98 years after Babe Ruth did it. I'm sure Ohtani has done. Ohtani must have played in the field at some point for one of these to count for what he's done. But just saying, interesting guy. Anything else for the All-Star that just pitched in Seattle in the All-Star game? No. He's an okay pitcher. That's it. It was fun to talk about him. He's 31. Will probably kick around another year or two in the league, but his utility as a hitter and pinch hitter in the National League went away when we have the universal DH. So the Mariners are kind of struggling at this point. Their offense looks a little bit lost. Go to their outfielders first. So I don't know why their manager is infuriating me, because Jared Kelenic is not bad against lefties, but for whatever reason, he's putting out broken old AJ Pollock, who I liked as a lefty killer back in the day, but not when he's playing 3 times a month. And it's just, that's frustrating. But Teoscar Hernandez is amazing. He doesn't get talked about enough just for his underlying metrics, both against righties and lefties. Eugenio Suarez, I like him better against lefties, but he's fine. Ty France, disappointing. And Julio Rodriguez looks like he can't be a superstar every year, I guess, but he's been struggling. But those would be the guys to go to. Cal Raleigh is also okay against righties. They're a catcher. But Kirby, very, very good pitcher. His strikeouts have fallen off. I don't know why. When he came up, it looked like he wasn't going to be a strikeout pitcher, and then his pitch mix enabled him to do that. I think the league has sort of caught on to what he's doing. He's still a very good pitcher. He's like a good number 2 starter. He's going to have a long career, but the strikeouts fell dramatically from last year to this year. Could be a small sample size. If we go look at, I think I have the notes here. If we look at his last 6 starts, do a little word search here on Kirby. Last year he had 24% strikeout rate. This year he had 20.8%. He had 28 strikeouts in his last 33 innings. And in that stretch, a 2.2 ERA and a 3.1 FIP and a quality start. So that was 5 straight quality starts. So he's a good pitcher. I can't figure out what he is with the strikeouts. I have no idea what the problem is with Graham Ashcraft. That's impossible. It breaks my mind to think how he doesn't get strikeouts. Kirby, it's just, at first I thought he wasn't going to get him, and then it was like, oh my God, yeah, he actually is. And now it's fallen apart. So it's probably a sample size or sequence or something. But they are trending back in the right direction. I think he's going to be right below a strikeout per inning guy. And to get to that next level, you really need to be 10 strikeouts per 9, not 9 strikeouts per 9. So he's going to be good, but he's not going to be, he's a fire. You're not going to think of him as strikeouts first. You may think of him as an amazing quality start guy. Every 5 days, wow, this guy's pretty good. He's not Randy Johnson, but he's pretty good.
So how with all of that analysis, how do you like him today against the Tigers? Is this? It seems like a decent spot.
Well, aren't we going to rank all of our?
Oh yeah, let's rank the 4 sides. All right, I'll let you do that.
Well, not only the 4 sides, but the whole slate.
We will rank that. I mean, but I don't know who's going to make it to it. So we got to do. Let's start with this game though. Rank the 4
Kirby
sides.
1, Seattle 2, Lorenzen 3, and the Tigers 4.
All right, perfect. So we have made it through all of the games. So so we're going to start with pitchers. Top 3 pitchers on this slate, EMac.
Well, let's exclude Spencer Strider because he's
a clear number 1.
Pablo Lopez, pretty obvious against the A's.
Yep.
Kirby, pretty obvious against Detroit. Freddie Peralta, looking pretty good. We may be getting the Freddie of last year. Really good over his since that 10-game ass whooping or 10-run ass whooping he got. He's been pretty good. So Freddie Peralta, kind of your sneaky guy.
All right. 3 favorite stacks.
Taking Coors Field off the board. We are going number 1 is Tampa Bay. Number 2 is Atlanta, and number 3 will be the Cardinals. Now, superseding all of that is the Coors Field game with 12 runs.
Is that
both a
both
team
the
that is most
and the Rockies?
Yeah, both the Yankees and the Rockies, and that you're collectively looking for the right combination. The thing about Coors Field, and especially now that they don't have the Arenados, the Troy Tulowitzkis, the actual Chuck Nasty,
Todd
and
Helton.
not the imposter impersonator of Chuck Nasty. You're playing for the team. You're playing for the environment. You're playing for someone that's going to get the hits. What was it like Tovar last night? He was hardly on anybody's stacks, but he was the one you needed to do well. We're collectively looking at both of these teams.
Okay.
The others, we know who we're targeting of those other 3 I mentioned.
Gotcha. We need to do a home run pick that is outside of Coors. You cannot pick the 9-hole hitter in Coors Field. You've already said that you think that he's hitting a home run today. But who else? Who outside of Coors Field?
Well, you hooked somebody up by saying my pick was Matt Olson yesterday.
I did.
Which I'm happy because my pick of Brandon Belt did not get a home run. He had a couple base hits, but no home run. I think Olson is in line today, but in the non-Matt Olson category, we're going with Isaac Paredes. Against Cole Reagans, assuming it's Cole Reagans.
I'm trying to even find. Am I going to be able to find Isaac Paredes in our? Hang on.
With Yandy Diaz out, Paredes will probably bat 4th or 5th, depending on where they put in Randy Arozarena.
He is not on the first base. So maybe we just don't have him in the tools right now. I don't know.
Oh, it's probably messed up because it's a doubleheader.
Oh, you're right. Yep, that's what's going on. So we just don't have. All right. So you're going Isaac Paredes. I will go with. Fernando Tatis is number 1 in the tools, but I'm going to go away from number 1.
So I can't do Frenchie Cordero because he's in Coors Field, but you could go to Fernando Tatis.
I play by the rules, EMac. Though I just play by the rules. Okay. I don't make the rules. I guess I did make the rules probably initially, but I don't know. I'm just playing within the rules that we set for the game here. No, I'm not going to go with Fernando Tatis though. I'm going to go to Willy Adames, who has a 27% chance of hitting a home run in the top batters tool. So Willy Adames for my home run pick.
Yeah, so that's good for Matt Olson. Go bet him for a home run and try to parlay that with the over or the money line for Atlanta winning. I think there's your high end. Your middle is Paredes, and then your Coors Field off the board pick. He may get 2 at bats. He may not start. Frenchie Cordero.
Love it. And then Willy Adames for your 4th home run pick. So we made a whole parlay card for you. And if you want to add, Sportswiz says Mookie is the easy home run pick today. So a lot of good picks today. EMac, I know you don't get to talk to people on these shows very often. Do you have any final words for the people?
No, I'm good. I think I left it out on the field today. I'm happy with our performance, Neil, and I look forward to doing this again sometime.
Yeah, I think we covered all of the bases on this show. Thank you guys very much for watching. Again, if you have not yet hit the like button, I don't ask very often, but please do. It really does help us out quite a bit if you do hit that like button. Good luck today, everybody.